This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you, Cecil. I didn't tell you, did I? Thank you. And here comes Lindsay. So we're filling in here. So there we have. I'm gonna call the roll because Cara, you didn't by any chance have a list of people, did you? You don't. That's okay. I've got it in front of me, so it's easy for me to do. I didn't think to ask you earlier, so
I have the list in front of me, and so I'm happy for you to go through it or however.
Okay. All right, let me call it, and if you could keep track of who's here too, yeah. So Sarah Baldwin. I see you.
Hi.
Patty Baumgardner.
Present.
Diane Conlog.
Here.
Ara Bonzak here. Cheryl Russell.
Here.
Adele Conniff here. Sue Ellen Mitchell is not here. Andy Millar.
Yep, here.
Sandy Savage.
Here.
Lindsay Kelly.
Lindsay was here.
Saw
She
her
just left.
before. Yeah, she was here. She vanished.
Maybe she'll get back. So that happens sometimes. Sheila Sherwood.
Here.
Shannon Silsby. I think she's coming. Not here yet. Christopher Taylor.
I see him. I see him in the bottom screen.
Oh, hi. Yeah, looks like he's just coming in now. Okay, good. Bill Van Loan. I don't think
There's Lindsay.
Yeah, there's Lindsay.
And there's Chris.
I don't think Bill's with us, and we've got Sean. It's Sean Wheeler. Thank you. Okay, so I think Shannon's the only one that we're missing, and we'll see. Lindsay, we don't have any audio or visual on you, but I see your name, so I'm assuming you're there. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Parks and Recreation RTM committee. Let me find my. Somebody's got some feedback there, if you know who you are by any chance.
Sheila, that appears to be coming from you. Maybe you could mute yourself.
Okay.
Thank you, Cecil. Cecil Wade's our organizer this evening. Okay, the next order of business is the minutes, to approve the minutes from December 15th. Do I have any corrections to the minutes? Okay, there being none, may I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Diane moved and Sandy seconded. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Great. Great, thanks, guys. Next order of business is the budget. We're welcoming Pam Geary, who's the director of the Darien Parks and Rec Department. And she's going to guide us through the budget. I sent you a copy of the latest iteration. I don't have a printer, so I don't have the latest iteration in front of me, so I shall try to follow. So Pam's going to walk us through, and thank you, Pam.
Great. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me here tonight. We've been doing this, I guess, in a couple of years now, coming into the RTM committee and talking about the budget. So it's always been a pretty positive meeting.
It's real helpful.
So I think, thank you. So I think with the budget itself, there's only a few major budget drivers to this budget, and one being an increase of 32,000, and that is for adding a seasonal position, which is the patrolling guard that we used this past 2020 season during the pandemic. And we actually started with 2 patrolling guards, seeing that was a brand new, positions that we were trying to have some additional eyes on the parks and trying to help the residents with social distancing and masking and all types of rules. And they would patrol through not only our beaches, but through all parks in town. And I think the overall feeling with this position was a very positive one. So we felt it was behoove us to add it to the budget this year and keep 1 patrolling guard. There may be 2 part-time, so we might see a couple different individuals if it passes through. But the feeling was that I think 1 individual, 1 part-time of 40 plus hours is enough to roam through our town and make a impression in each park that there's someone there to guide people with the rules and to make sure that people are safe. And right now we're living in a society where we're not really sure where this pandemic is going, so we're planning as if we are going to need some of that additional help. And so that's one of my major budget drivers. And as you go down the budget there, and certainly you can ask me questions other than these, but the other budget driver would be an additional $15,000 that we put into the budget to put in for pest control, which is basically to control the geese. And, Kate Bush was quite funny the other day in my budget meeting because she said, "Pam, you finally gave up." And, certainly if you don't know the story behind it, it was maybe 3 years ago, we had $20,000 set aside for geese. And it was just very surprising to me that the town is spending so much money each year. And in my position, there were no geese at the parks. So we were kind of challenging the system in the sense that, well, wait a minute, we've been paying this for 20 years. And in the last 3 years, there's absolutely no geese in the parks, especially at Cherryland. So we were paying all this money at Cherryland, and Cherryland had no geese anyway because it's so active, but primarily at Tilly Pond. And so, we decided to make the move to take it out of the budget and try different techniques that other towns have tried, and didn't work. So we couldn't find the right combination. But so we are putting it back in there to see if the town can stomach the additional $20,000 to run dogs. That's what we did primarily for the other 20 years. Was it's a service that runs dogs out into the park, and they come at various times during the day, 7 days a week actually. And so that's the second budget driver. The other thing too with that is we have to consider Highland property, and the Highland property, although it's not a park, it is a town property that Parks and Recreation is managing. And there are a ton of geese there seasonally. So that's another area we'll have to tackle. The third driver, I would say, would be an additional $8,000 that was put in the budget to deal with concession equipment. So if you've been following along with the Parks and Recreation Commission, the concession stands have always had the same vendor for the last 20 years. And although we've gone out to bid in the last few years, getting other vendors to bid is very difficult in our concession stands because the majority of the equipment is owned by the vendor. So when we go out to bid, it's very difficult for any vendor to step into that territory knowing that they have to put up front X amount of dollars just to vend for the season. So my request to the town is that we would like to buy our own equipment, either buy the equipment that's inside the concession stand now, which we do have a proposal from the vendor, and or a few pieces of new equipment as well. So this additional $8,000 is anticipating that, forbid we have any issues with any of the equipment while we take it over, that we'll have some funding, and it really breaks down to $4,000 per beach. So if one of the refrigerators was to go down, or the fryolator or something, we'd have some funds. Now, first, this is definitely a guesstimate. And after the first year of going through this, we'll get a better handle on what that figure should be. So that's exactly what that is for. And
Pam, I have a question.
yes.
Could you just clarify, is the 8,000 to buy new equipment, or then you said it was in case some of the equipment goes down? So do you mind just specifying what the 8,000 is used for? I'm sorry if I missed
Sure.
it.
The 8,000 has nothing to do with buying the equipment. In last year's capital budget, we put forth $20,000, and it did not get approved. It got deferred in the 2020 in our current budget that we have now. So that money, I have to go to Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to request funding to purchase the used equipment and or a few pieces of new equipment. That's outside of this $8,000. This $8,000 is for the fiscal year 22 budget, and this is anticipation of having some additional funds at each concession stand to deal with any problems that might come up during the summer season. We may use 1,000 of it, we may use none of it, we may use all of it. So it's just a transitional period to get us through the first summer of actually owning the equipment.
Does anybody else have a question on that? Okay, Cheryl?
Yeah, Pam, could you please tell me where in your budget you added the 32,000 and the 15,000 and the 8,000?
Yes, so the 32,000 is in security services. It's about midway down that list.
Yep.
The 15,000, and Cheryl, if you look to the very far right, and then one column over is where you'll see the changes. And the 15,000 is in pest control, which is just about at the end of the sheet, first sheet.
So it was 2,000, then it was 5,000, then it was 5,000. Now it's up to 20.
Right, because originally when we had the service for all these years, it was always $20,000. And when we took the last 3 years off, we left 5,000 in there to try to come up with different initiatives to battle the problem. So we had to put an additional 15 in there to get 20. And to be quite honest with you, the company that we've used all in the past, I've gotten quotes from them, which actually supersedes $20,000. But I will be negotiating, put it that way.
And that's geese relief? It's the same.
But there are other companies out there, but we're basing the quote that he gave us. So if you have two pieces of property, the cost is a little bit less expensive, but typically it's about $300 per week for the service. And right now I would be focusing on Tilly and Highland Farms.
And the 8,000 for the concessions?
Is right below the 15, and that's in facility repair and maintenance. It's all the way to almost to the end of the first page.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so you had 77,900.
Right.
Now you have 30,000. 167?
It would bring it up to 85.9, which is the fiscal year 22 proposal.
Right.
Correct.
85.9. Okay. So That is in
And facility repair.
repair and maintenance.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. So typically that account holds a lot of contracts as well, like the garbage that companies that have contracts and the cleaning company that have contracts. And then we have miscellaneous funding for each park in town that would need repairs. So, and this is what we're, well, maybe it's a good time to bring this up because we had two different committee members, one being Kara and the other being Andrew, who had sent me questions beforehand. And it might be a good time just to discuss this since we're talking about budgeting. But Andrew asked if I could provide detail on the pest control. And Andrew, I don't know if I've answered your questions now that I've been talking about the company that comes 7 days a week. It's typically about $300 a week. Do you have any other questions, Andrew?
Yes, actually I do. I remember back the 3 years ago that you mentioned earlier. My memory's a little fuzzy, but I think I recall your saying that very proudly that you had discovered a dog who could do the work for us, and that we in fact had found a town dog, and that you had identified an employee who loved dogs and had offered to take care of the dog and use the dog to chase the geese for us. And I wondered what happened to that, or if my
Can I
memory
say that publicly?
Yeah. And I made a smart aleck response in which I asked if the dog was going to become a union member.
Well, yes, you have
And nobody laughed.
you have a very good memory. And yes, that's indeed true. But the top administration didn't feel as if, it felt as if that would be a conflict of interest with our staff employee, and very hard to fit in her schedule that we work 8 o'clock in the morning till 5:15. And so as much as we thought that it was a really good plan to reduce costs and take care of the problem, it didn't work out.
Too bad.
Pam, I have a quick, can I ask a quick question?
That's the way it
So,
works in government, right?
because Highland is such a bigger piece of property, do you think you're asking enough? I'm just throwing it out there. I know everybody's always trying to cut budgets, but it's a big piece of property and it is a ton of geese there. So I love that you're going to be negotiating on it. I was just wanting to know if it had been 20 grand in the past, and we're looking at 15. Do you think that's enough?
I had him quote Highland already, so it's just above the 20. But what bothers me with these companies, where I do feel that there's room for negotiation, is that once the problem goes away, which means that the geese travel to a different place, then for multiple years after that, the car still pulls up to the park and they don't even get out of the car. So I feel that there's a negotiation that can be made. There's no reason that they should be coming to the park 7 days a week in the same capacity as they do when the problem is there. So when the problem is resolved, if it's just in maintenance mode, we shouldn't be paying the same price.
I agree.
That's in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I remember you saying that 3 years ago, and that we appreciate your efforts to try to do that. And I don't think anyone here would disagree that the geese are a problem.
Right.
Who wants to walk in Highland Park?
Well, we have a few concerns on our hands with this whole thing that we haven't worked out yet. One with Highland Farm is that we're not supposed to have dogs off leash. We have the horses next door, but certainly these dogs are very, very well trained and under control. So I would imagine that we work that out with the Hunt Club. And the other small issue right now, but we have received some pushback from residents on the complete flip side. Not to hurt the geese, learn to live with the geese. So we shall see where that folds out, because we have gotten feedback from others in town that are not in favor of letting dogs loose to chase the animals.
Clearly those people don't live right next to Tilly Pond then, because I'm sure all those neighbors have, great concerns, as we've talked about in the last meeting, where they are constantly, it's been bad over there. So I appreciate what you're doing there. Do you have a breakout of the difference in price for Highland versus Tilly, or is it all just one quote?
No, it's, right now, if we were to go annual, there's a difference between an annual fee and a month-to-month fee, and having one property versus having multiple properties. So in the one quote that I got, it was $250 for Tilly. If we went annual, it was $250 at Tilly and $200 for Highland, which was in my eyes surprising, but it was, so that would work out to be the $450 a week, plus some additional costs for this particular group to get started right away, because the onset of the job is a little bit more difficult than midway through. So I think there's an additional $1,500 to get started. So this is where we're seeing some of the additional costs over the 20, but I believe there's room for negotiation. As I negotiated when I first got here, we were paying 20 and it was dropped to 15 pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And then Andrew had asked what was my position on some interim basic maintenance at Pear Tree Beach existing building. And my answer to that is that our facility repair maintenance account, that's what that account is for. It's for basic maintenance that's needed, that we didn't plan, that something happened. We have some money at each park to make some small maintenance repairs, painting jobs. We have that miscellaneous money. Sometimes it's more at Baker than it would be at McGuan. Some years it would be more at Cherryland than it is at Pear Tree. So we do have that fund to help us with that. And this leads into Kara, her email to me, which was, now Kara, you shared that with the group, correct?
Where is that line item? Or sorry, what is the line item that you're referring to?
That is the facility repair where the additional 8,000 was put into.
Okay, so that's the 85,000 or 85,000. The 8,000 is going for the concession equipment.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
But remember, much of that money is also locked down with different contracts. So it's not as if we have $85,000 just miscellaneous. It's not. It's our cleaning contracts, our garbage contracts. So we have quite a bit of money that's locked up as well.
So what is not locked up for other things that are not cleaning, garbage, or concession?
I don't have that figure right now, but I can tell you that it's not 85,000. It's not 77,000. So I would say if I had to make a good guess, that would be probably 30 of miscellaneous money to make repairs throughout the year to the facilities. But I certainly can get a solid number for you. But Kara, did you send that email out? Did everybody get the email that you had asked me about the questions?
No.
Oh. Okay. So Kara had asked me if, now I guess Adele, would you like me just to read this?
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Kara wrote that I'm looking forward to the PRC meeting this evening. Adele asked that we submit questions to you in advance of the meeting. So could I please ask for an update on the budget with respect to funding for the maintenance of the Pear Tree Point Beach bathhouse? As noted during Chairperson Conniff's comments at the December 2020 Commission meeting, the RTM Parks and Rec Committee would like to see maintenance funds in the budget for the Pear Tree Beach bathhouse. Our interest is having a clean, functional bathhouse. As Chairperson Conniff described, one of the members of the RTM PRC brings a portable potty to the beach because she doesn't allow her children in the bathroom because of poor maintenance standards. Another person in town said it is embarrassing. People from the outside of Darien come on the weekends and we look like the Bronx. And in the last commission meeting, Commissioner Bora said we need to maintain our facilities. If we have facilities, we need to maintain them to a standard of care. There is a broad agreement that Darien should maintain our facilities and that the Pear Tree Point bathhouse is overdue for basic maintenance. While maintenance is simple, it still needs to be in the budget. As an estimate / placeholder, I would propose the town budget $75,000 and works to refine the estimate / placeholder over the next month. In developing the estimate / placeholder, I included the following: painting, interior and exterior bathhouse, as well as gazebo, $20,000. Mirrors and soap dispensers installed above sinks, $4,000. New sinks and faucets, $8,000. New bathroom shower hardware, $8,000. Simple landscaping around the building, $25,000. New bike rack, $2,000. Carpentry repairs, vents, etc., $5,000. New benches and towel hooks, $2,000. Other, $1,000. Total proposed maintenance budget, $75,000. These figures are placeholders based on internet research, a few contractor discussions, and my own experience, and I would be happy to work to refine them with you and or meet with you at the building to review the maintenance needs. I included cost of goods plus an additional 50% for installation, but imagine the Parks and Rec crew can do some of the work. I hope you will work with me to address a widely supported need. Warm regards, Kara. And with all due respect, Kara, our budget has already been sent up to town administrator, has been approved by our Parks and Recreation Commission. And for any type of amount of money for the Pear Tree bathhouse at this point, it's such a sticky situation in the sense that our Parks and Recreation Commission has voted multiple times already on the Pear Tree Improvement Project. The Pear Tree Improvement Project has not gone away. It's simply on hold. And so I can't spend, I could never even put those dollars in that budget. So it's a little bit more complicated than simply saying, we want all those changes. So when you talk about minimal things, for instance, I talked to one of my park crew today, our foreman, and I sent him over to Pear Tree today and said, please just put your eyes on the building and in the landscape and tell me right now what changes you feel that you could make, significant or even just minimal. And basically he said that, he could definitely see some rust. There's obviously rust in both facilities, bathhouse and the lifeguard. We certainly can do some painting over the rusting areas. We would have our money, which we have in our facility repair for that. The gazebo, which you had mentioned, has been painted, has all been redone and painted only 4 years ago. So for that, I would say it would be fine. Any other of the larger, some of the small things like, I certainly, if we were going to do mirrors and soap dispensers, some of the things you put in that list are indeed maintenance things, but a lot of them are more capital. So capital expenses would be put in a capital account. So that would be my response to that. We will do what we can to, clean up where we can, paint any rusty things, replace anything that we feel that our budget can handle. But in terms of the actual project, until someone says that's not happening or we're not going that way, but our commission wants to see the place improved. And part of that improvement is the boat launch, the parking lot, and the facility. And I'm taking the lead with the commission. Are there any questions on that?
Pam, it's Andy. Do you recall what it cost to improve the gazebo?
The cost of the gazebo, when we did improve that, maybe that was 4 years ago, I want to say. We did that in-house. We had a public works employee and one of the parks crews employee, and they redid all the boards and the roofing, and they repainted it. And I want to say that that came out to almost $10,000.
Well,
But it was done
I think that was a wonderful contribution and the kind of thing that we'd love to see done to the other building, particularly something if it could be done before this summer while people are still stuck at home and using the parks very heavily. I think even if the revisions or the new plan for Pear Tree were approved tomorrow, it would never be ready for this summer.
Right. I think the difference between those two are that the gazebo is done with is constructed in wood and materials that we're able to to work with, whereas the building itself is cement. And so you're talking about, like Kara's were correct, it's fixtures and things like that could be improvement, but at the same time that has to be voted by and approved by the commission, especially for any type of capital improvement.
Do you have a sense of why the commission doesn't want to improve it, so that we could understand what their objections are?
Oh, I think they very much want to improve it. I think everybody feels that that facility needs to be improved, greatly improved. It's just a matter of dealing with the amount of money that they want to put into a facility that needs much more improvement. Like, how much money do you put into an old building? And I think that's a question that
the chairman of the Board of Finance has told the entire RTM twice that he's awash in money.
Big debate for sure. I know, but I think
don't think it's debate. He's said that twice. He said we have more money than we need, so we can do capital projects around town.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is, and it's been a while since we've really sat down and discussed this, but it's about how much money is available to put into that money, into the building, before you can actually touch it again for the next 3 years. So I would have to really go back and look at the details. I mean, remember the details behind what the state said that we could get away with that.
That's very insightful, very helpful. Thank you for that insight. That's very helpful.
You're welcome.
I want to make one. Oh, go ahead, Andy.
No, I'm finished.
Well, I will not profess to be a FEMA expert. I have read the guidelines, and if you don't need a building permit, it's not part of the 50% for continuous improvement. So a lot of these items for basic maintenance have nothing to do with the 50% rule. They don't require a permit to put a mirror in or to have a non-leaking faucet or a working shower. Pam, you're super clear, and I appreciate your speaking. It sounds like on behalf of the commission that the commission's decided not to put any maintenance into the building. Do you think you can just share when was the last time there was any maintenance done to the building?
Sure. I mean, when you talk about no maintenance, there's definitely maintenance. Like our guys.
When was the last time the faucets and the sinks and the showers were redone?
Well, they haven't been redone since I've been here. But think about for the last year and a half, this project's been going on, and the whole idea behind the whole project was to improve all these things. So we've been put on hold in that respect by having a commission and a building committee that are in our bottom line was to fix up the facility and make sure that all those things were, improved and better. And so it's been a long process. Nobody ever would have thought it would have taken this long. So, but regardless of that, as I said, we do have a facility repair maintenance account. So whatever we feel that small improvements that can be done, like if there were leaky faucets and there was something that wasn't working, we're certainly going to fix it. And our crew has not turned their head to that. Now, Cheryl has been asking for a water fountain, but we didn't put the water fountain back in because of COVID. And we certainly, Jim Flynn had made reference to the pipes. It's intricate, and they're old pipes that are attached to that faucet. So I'm not the expert on it, but he said that was problematic. But when COVID hit, no faucets in town at all are operated right now. So, but at the same time, no one's turning their heads to simple, basic maintenance there. Whatever we feel that needs to get done, as I said, I sent Sandy down there today. He took a look at things. He didn't see anything that was glaring at him right now, but he did say that there was a patio outside where the concession is, that they can fix that up to make it look a little nicer in terms of repainting. There's some rusty areas over there as well. But if there's any specifics, but capital-wise, our capital has already been approved and sent up to town administration.
Okay. Okay, I think is that the end of the discussion, I believe, for the operating budget? Yes? Any other questions? Cheryl?
Yeah, Pam, since this is going to take probably another 2-3 years, because we don't know, so I'm on the building committee for those of you that don't know and that are new to the committee. With this pandemic and everything going on, we just don't know where we stand in the building committee yet. We're not going to go back to work and probably till May. And then we have to get the permits and the process going for the boat ramp and the parking lot. So I think Kara has a good point in trying to fix it up a little bit, because the beach last year, because everybody was there, because people didn't go on vacations and they didn't, the facility was used heavily all summer long. And I was wondering, which is an old standard of mine, about sand. And if in fact we could get some new sand down there, it wouldn't, if in fact we do expand the parking, the sandy beach in the back and in the front, if we do that, we can just add more sand to that area. If we go out 5 feet or 15 feet, whatever we do. So I was wondering if in fact you could ask for a special appropriation and get some decent sand down there, because it is just filthy, and it has been for almost 15 years. So I think that's one improvement that could be accomplished this year. And I think that if we power wash the bathrooms and Jim and his crew go in there and try and clean it up and paint it and make it a little fresher, make it more inviting, and even put some plants around the front where the 2 planting boxes are. Put some grasses in there or some, I don't know, daisies or whatever. It's a public beach and it's part of our town. And our town, everybody takes all the real estate brokers take everybody to the beaches. And this is a showcase. And we're very privileged to be able to have 2 beautiful beaches in our town. So I think that if, you can get Jim to go down there in this, before the beach opens, that would be an asset.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that maybe you could ask for a special appropriation, or go to, with the permission of the commission, of course.
Right. That would have to go through the commission. And, the last appropriation we received for sand was, I want to say 3 years ago.
Not a Pear Tree.
Well, some of it went to Pear Tree. Yeah.
Well, it was
$20,000 worth of sand, and 3/4 of it went to Weed Beach and 1/4 of it went to Pear Tree. And also just a reminder too, that the incomplete bathhouse and concession stand building at Pear Tree were repainted by our crew 4 years ago, and that was inside now. Right.
Right.
So,
But the shower stall in there is very rusty, and the paint is chipping off of that, and it needs to be freshened up.
I think, our springtime, I think that Jim could probably schedule some of that, but they can't paint before spring.
Right.
For that outdoor facility. And as you know, springtime is probably the busier of their season than summer. So he would have to schedule to get some sort of that job done. But I certainly have no problem meeting with Jim down there next week to see what types of things he can fit in there, and what he thinks could be, a good refresher to the building, and what type of cost that would be. But at the same time, we have a commission meeting next week, and I certainly can bring up that with the commission as well.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah.
That leads us right into really your capital budget requests.
Okay, so the 22 fiscal year capital requests were, and as you may or may not know, we did have some additional accounts. As you said, Adele, you knew that was coming, that the Board of Finance wanted even more transparency. So they got rid of the equipment. I lost the word here. The equipment repair, the equipment account that we'd have additional amount of money put in every single year. So all the accounts, reserve, thank you. So the equipment reserve account, we had a tree replacement account, we had a playground account, improvement account that we would put funds in every year. And they would, if we didn't use them that year, they would accumulate. And they did away with that. They only kept those reserve accounts for departments that would have well over $100,000 of requests each year. And as you look at this capital improvement plan, you'll see that only once in 2023 are we requesting a $100,000 item, which is a replace a 550 hook truck. So it goes without saying that they'd rather have us plan and to have our capital improvements, not accumulate year by year. They want us to, like for instance, they got rid of the playground equipment. So now I'm putting a playground project to replace some equipment at Cherryland playground, and they want to see that as its total item. I'm trying to see where I put that in there. So now in 21, 22, let's see. So we have the 5,000 tree replacement at Tilly Pond. So before this, I had just a tree replacement program that would leave it general and open. They want more specific information. So I know that we've just had, I think, just under $10,000 worth of tree removal at Tilly Pond just recently. Never mind some of the health issues of the trees that were removed in the beginning of the year and those that were storm related. So it was safe to say that we could take 5,000 and plant new trees at Tilly. So then perhaps next year we'll look at Baker, and the year after that we'll look at Pear Tree, or what have you, however order we want to look at that. So that's how that's going to move forward with capital items. $82,000 we've requested, at Tilly Pond to dredge the pond and widen and repave the main path. That's been on our list for quite a few years now. And we got the price driven down quite amount. It was about 175,000, I think, maybe 5 years ago. And we have a vendor that can do both the dredging and widening of the path, which really helped save a lot of money on that, keeping the equipment right there to do both projects. We have 200.
Expertise in doing both of those?
Say that one more time.
Your expertise in doing both of those?
Yes.
Sometimes dredging is a very specific thing versus
Yes.
asphalt. Okay.
Right. Yep. Jim Flynn has. I'm forgetting the company. I don't want to misspeak, but I do have the quote. And whether or not there's this one particular guy, this vendor is doing all of it, or if he's bringing in somebody else to do one or the other is a different story. But the quote came in at 82, which was quite good. The other one we have requesting is $250,000 to resurface the tennis courts. I should say reconstruct the tennis courts at Cherryland, which is the cluster of tennis courts. And the reason that figure is so much higher than asphalt is because it is a concrete post-tension courts. And those are the same courts that are done at Weed Beach. We're done in a post-tension. And that's quite popular these days because they tend to last a lot longer than asphalt does.
Can I make a suggestion? So when you're presenting this in front of the selectmen, I know it's Kate's budget when it goes on to Kate's budget, but then you're also there and they often ask you those questions. Definitely say the word reconstruct instead of resurface. Because if you just say resurface and it's 250K, that's going to be a quick line item cut. But if you say reconstruct, then they get the whole visuals of what's involved. And, you know, I support that because I see how ripped up and how many patches there are on that, the Cherryland tennis courts, those 3 that are in a row. So thank you.
Right. That's just to clarify. So when we're talking about the single tennis court that we're looking to create into or do a conversion into pickleball courts, that would be a resurfacing because they're not going to pull up that surface and put down new surface. They're strictly going to repaint and put in 4 pickleball courts if this goes through, of course, but that's the project. So yes, there is a huge difference between resurfacing and reconstructing.
But the pickleball is not in this budget, yes?
No,
because it's a private donation.
Right. We have Sean Shea, who stepped up to the plate and would like to fundraise for the project cost of that. And there's still multiple boards I have to go through to get approval to accept the gift of those donations, which I am on schedule to do. January 19th is the first Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen. And then I have to get to the RTM to have the board approve the gift as well. And then we also have to write up the bid for the project and all the scope of work that goes behind it. We have gotten an okay from planning and zoning already on that. So that's a good start. But I know Sean's very anxious, and yet going through the town system is sometimes quite long. So we're doing our best.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to the Cherryland gazebo roof. We have 15,000 set aside for that to replace the roof on the gazebo.
So I have a question about the gazebo. Sorry, how old is the gazebo?
I'm sorry, say that. I can't hear you.
How long has the gazebo been there?
That I don't know. I've only been here 5.5 years. So I want to say, Patty?
Many years.
Sorry, because I spend a lot of time there. I don't know how much everyone on the committee spends time there. But maybe just because it's even more heightened, the fact that we're dealing with COVID, but when you go there and there's already someone else in there, you can't go in. So it kind of gets dominated by one family. And when you have really little kids, again, if you guys don't spend a lot of time there, that playground in the little kid section has zero shade besides that gazebo. Zero. Like, it is so hot in the summer. And so I'm just in my mind, I see 15,000, and I think, has it ever been considered to take out the gazebo and do something that's more wrong and allows more people to actually, I don't know if anyone's ever been to Todd's Point, the way that they did it on their beach, where they have those long,
It's called a pavilion.
yeah, and it's just, everyone can just put their strollers under there and kind of make it a little, yeah, I love it. I wish our beaches had those, but, so anyway, I was just thinking about spending 15,000 when at the end of the day, I don't think the gazebo serves a great purpose for many people at a
So
time.
Sarah,
Yeah.
I'm smiling because now Adele and Patty are gonna know this. Because I indeed am in favor of a pavilion instead of that gazebo. And we went through a walkthrough with the commission, and I indeed said the exact same thing, because I am all about servicing more people. And I have the same feeling about the gazebo at, not necessarily, not getting rid of the gazebo at Pear Tree, but when someone's in that gazebo, that's it. And right, it's not a shared facility. So,
Coaching and then like private party, you're like, hey, can I see you?
exactly.
Like,
But I will tell you, my suggestion got, it was vetoed very quickly.
well, we must we're like, don't spend a lot of time there because
Consideration of a sunshade for cherry lawn, because Sarah also mentioned that. I know you
Yeah.
guys did a great job of the sunshade down at Weed Beach. Is
Mhm.
there, have you considered putting in a sunshade there as well? I know we talked about it at McGuan as well.
Right, McGuan is definitely a more hot spot than Cherry Lawn is. Cherry Lawn's got some trees around, and so certainly we can consider that for sure. But I am a firm advocate of a pavilion, even if it's in addition to that gazebo, Sarah. I think that Cherry Lawn really needs something like that, because people can rent it out for small parties, and it just accommodates a lot more people. So we are looking at 2 or 3 of those for Weed Beach in the Weed Beach Improvement Project as well.
Okay. Awesome. Great.
Yeah, so I share your concerns. 66,000 we have for Weed Beach Tennis Court repainting, so that's a resurfacing. When we had those post-tension courts, the vendor had said, really every 6 to 7 years they should be repainted, and we're going on 9. So they are starting to show some chipping. There's no cracking, which is really nice, and shows that the concrete post-tension is working, but there is chipping of the paint. So that's what that 66,000 is for the 6 courts there. And moving on to the last 3, we have $20,000 for Woodland Park parking repairs. I'm trying to make that, so go ahead, Kara.
A question on the tennis courts. The backboard is totally cracked and almost unplayable at Weed Beach. What's the timing or thought about giving that a little bit of attention?
Is that the backboard? You mean the cement wall? Yes, I know. I recently went down there and took pictures of that, and I think it missed this capital, but I think that we need to do something about that. Absolutely. I took some pictures, and we'll just have to wait till the next budget period on that, because I think that I'm not, so I have to have a professional come down and take a look at it and say how much money will it cost to fix that, or does it have to be completely redone? I'm not certain. So Woodland Park parking repairs. Oh, Sheila's got a question. Go ahead, Sheila.
I didn't want to interrupt, but when you're talking about shade in the different areas, I know Pear Tree used to have trees all along the back, and they've gradually been cut down because they weren't good anymore. And then I heard that replacing them was on hold because we were looking into the total change at Pear Tree. So since that is on hold, I'm wondering if it's possible to consider putting some trees along the edge of the beach, the length of the beach, to have shade there for people again. Then it'd be less of an issue that one family's in the gazebo, but everyone looks for shade and it's gone. So is that something that can be back in to put a few trees there?
You know, it's a great question. All I can tell you is that going through the process of this project, prior to appointing a building committee to that project, our tree conservancy group in town was ready and anxious and willing to plant trees at Pear Tree. And that got put on hold because we were starting this big project. It just didn't seem the right time while we were going to go in there and start planning on something new to have them plant those trees there. No one would have known that we would have went through this type of, you know, issues through last year and a half, but it is a good question. I certainly can raise the question with the commission and see if we have the consensus to think that that's the right thing to do at this time.
That would be great.
Yeah, or maybe we should actively try and promote a campaign around Earth Day or Arbor Day, donate a tree in honor of Grandpa or something like that. We might have an opportunity to do it there without having it, you know, hit the capital budget. Unfortunately, the tree conservancy has kind of gone away. So that's why I would say if that's of interest, Pam, I can try and explore that with a few people that were on that committee and get their feedback.
Sure, I think that the commission really needs to take a stance on this though as well and say, you know, regardless whether they are donated or not, are we in the position right now to, you know, put trees in? I don't know. I think when I look back on the plan, even the plan that was put in place, it didn't change that stretch of beach that much. I think we increased the beach a little bit more, and I think that's the concern a little bit on that edge, is that we were trying to make more beach on both sides. So putting trees in now, would we be doing that too early? I don't know. So just it's a great question, and I understand that we definitely need some more shade there for sure. And then I guess a good question would be if we plant them when or if the project does start up again, can we safely make some changes and put them back in the ground? If we have to move them, I don't know.
Well, it feels like we would be planting them not near the building.
No, but we were looking to extend, not only, we were looking to expand the beach on both sides. So, you know, where those trees would go, you know, should we be dictating that now or when the plan gets put in place? So I think that's the issue at hand. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened, but I couldn't hear you speaking, Pam. Are you talking about planting trees at Pear Tree now?
Yes.
Okay, so can we plant them where they were taken down? Like, I think there's probably a good 3 or 4 that could be planted there now, and they would be continued in the line of trees. On the building committee, I had suggested that we keep them in the same line. I can't see planting this one here and that one over there, but if we keep them in the front beach at the same time, in the same line. Were you also considering planting some on the back beach?
I don't recall if that was in the plan. We haven't visited this plan in so long now, it feels. So
I know. It wasn't in the plan for the back beach or the west beach as they call it and the south beach as they call it.
Because the project has been put on hold, the commission really needs to weigh in on this.
Right.
There's really not a lot that I can speak to without sending it through the commission.
Okay. Well, I couldn't hear it. For some reason, we were all blocked out and you were talking and I couldn't hear anything that you were saying.
Maybe that was good.
But,
Pam,
It's, everybody here agrees we'd like to have the 3 trees that died on the front beach replaced in about the same area. So could we make a statement like that to share with the commission?
I think we can, absolutely. There's nothing that we can't discuss, absolutely. If you have, and I don't know if they'll have the answers right away either, but at this time, they may have a feeling of how long they anticipate this project may go on. So therefore, to plant those trees now and let people have some comfort for the next couple of years, I personally don't see the harm in that, but I might not be thinking of something, you know, that would delay the project even more.
It's Andy. I would certainly support that.
Okay. And then the last two I have are 2 pieces of park crew equipment. One
Can you go
being,
back to Woodland? No,
Yeah.
we didn't get to talk about Woodland.
oh sure, so the parking lot at Woodland Park. So as you all may know, it's kind of a cluster there. As you drive into Woodland, there's really no organization as to parking spaces. There's definitely some room that can be made by replacing some of the big boulders that are there and possibly gaining some more spaces. So the idea is this particular 20,000 quote is an asphalt quote, which our commission would really have a more pervious pavement. So we're looking at more of a crushed stone. So this figure could come down a little bit or even be about the same, I'm not certain. But the idea is to have a more organized parking space.
I went past there today and there were 8 cars and spaces, and there was one in the driveway that was looking for a space. So I do realize that something needs to be done there. It was kind of hanging out in the road. You had said here you considered using town equipment to do the job. What happened with that?
Well, the town equipment, we did do some small, we moved a few of the big boulders out of the way where there was some issues, but this is in terms of lining parking spaces, and our crew doesn't have that. We need to dig up, put down some crushed stone. Similar to when you look at Highland Farm, you know, it's just, you drive in, it's organized, it's clean, it's got the rocks there and the painted lines. So we want something more clean cut and possibly adding additional parking spaces as well, if we can.
How many spaces do you envision going there?
Not until I have a vendor that can come up with a plan for me, but because every time I go there, they're parked in all different ways. I see
that.
Wow, that's pretty good. Yeah. I'm not sure you can get 10 spaces in there, but I think if they're constructed in the proper way, we probably can make 10 spaces available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lindsay?
Hi. No, I just, I'm new to the committee, but my backyard actually backs up to Woodland Park. So we're in that park several times a week. And I would say that that would be a great addition. But also something, I'm sure you already, whoever comes up with this, I think there's some drainage issue there as well in the parking area. It's super muddy. And it's probably considered wetlands at some point or something of that nature. So I'm interested also to see what you guys come up with. And I think it's probably also a safety thing as well, because people are starting to park on the sidewalks outside of Woodland Park as well, just to try to get into the park. So kudos to you guys. I'm excited for it.
I think that the material that the vendor will use will help with the drainage as well. Okay. So I think that will be a great improvement to that park.
I would just caution, I would try and find out as much as possible for this, because if we have 8 people parking now and we're wondering if we can get to 10, that's 20 grand's a lot of money to get 2 more parking spots. I recognize that we're talking about safety and we're talking about, to Lindsay's point, some possible drainage issues. I just think it's a beautiful nature park, and I would prefer to see maybe the parking area a little more organized. I'm glad the commission's going away from asphalt. I wonder if there's even an alternative to, I don't mind crushed stone because I think Waveney's done a really good job with that with their walking trails and things like that. But I also consider it almost like a big pocket park. Lindsay, maybe you can talk to this since you live right there, but so many people who go there are neighbors as well. There are people that drive there, but there's also so many people that have services there. So I would just, I think it's a very different type of thing than what Highland is. And so we should be careful not to try and duplicate the parking at Highland, and give it more of a natural feel.
Definitely not my intention. I absolutely agree with you there. I'm just giving an example of how Highland looks. I don't look to repeat that, but I just meant in more organized fashion. Like you drive in and you know where you're going to park. It's clear. Mm-hmm. And when you go into Woodland, it's not clear. Everyone's going to just take a space wherever they can squeeze into. And I find sometimes it's hard to back out if you've parked, it's 3 cars have already surrounded you. So it just gets messy. And I just think it needs to be fixed up. I think absolutely.
You probably could even limit the amount of people that are parking there, because right now you just try to squeeze in where you can. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree. It is certainly a neighborhood park. My kids are in elementary school and they're all back in there, as well as, lots of people who, it's been a refuge for us during COVID. I don't know what we would have been done without it. But certainly, the parking lot is one thing that, and I don't know if you guys, if this is something that that your crew does as well, but I always wonder, and maybe you can just answer this for, my general background, when a storm comes through, some of those trees look super precarious within the park. They're leaning on each other. I tell my kids not to walk under it, that type of thing. Who goes around to make sure that there's like a safety measure where these trees are, not prone to fall on people who are in the park?
Right, so the park crew, what they do is they go through all the pathways. So in a nature preserve, they're not going 5 miles off the path, right? So that in nature preserve is when a tree comes down in its natural position, if it's leaning on something, if it's not causing any harm, but because the paths are what need to be kept clear from the precarious trees above. So we also have a tree warden that will send through all our park. What's definitely Sullitt's Woods and Woodland Park. And we've taken out a number of trees that he felt were unhealthy or had limbs that need to come down. So every time the guys enter the parks, their eyes are on the trees.
Okay.
So they're taking watch for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on Woodland? Oh, Chris.
Hey, Pam. I don't want to get too much into it here, but in terms of parking, is there ever the opportunity to open up the West Ave entrance? I know it would take a little bit of development there, but could we potentially put 5, 6, 8 more parking spots on that side as well?
Have to take a look at it.
Okay.
I really have not spent time looking at it in that fashion, but it's certainly a good question.
There's a wider entrance from that side also. I don't know if they use it for emergency vehicles or not, because there's they've got that thing that goes across that says do not enter. But I've thought that as well.
Yeah, and they have that one home right there, don't they, with the driveway right next to the entrance there?
It's down a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
sound a little.
Yeah, we can take a look at that as an option for sure.
Thanks.
I really don't know if there's any restrictions, but I'll send the guys down. We'll take a look at it and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
You got it. So the last two pieces of capital equipment is the stand-on blower for the park crew and the ground master mower. That's going to be in addition to our fleet. Both of them are in addition. The stand-on blower has been, we purchased one 2 years ago. It's proved to be a really great piece of equipment that saves a super amount of time and efficiency of getting work done, because they're not simply just backpack blowers. You're actually standing on them, and they take almost 50% of the work. So we thought that this was a great addition to get another one here for our fleet, especially since we're adding more property to the guys to get jobs done, that if we can get it quicker and done more efficiently, it'll be great for the crew. So those are the last two. And I don't know if anybody else has any more questions, but I have been through my budget meeting with Jamie Stevenson, Kate Bush, and Jen, our finance director. And from this point, the meeting went really well, but they don't at that point indicate whether they're going to make cuts right then and there. So very well could have cuts in our operating budget, and we could have cuts to the capital as well. So we'll see how that goes about.
Did they tell you when they would give you that feedback, or is it at their first kind of Board of Selectmen review process with Kate?
Yeah, it's been interesting. There's been times over the years where Kate has been quite clear about it. And then there's been instances where I was surprised that I had a cut and I didn't know about it. So I'm not certain. I would think that I would know, especially if it was the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance that cut it. But sometimes Kate will make small cuts and you don't know about it until the end.
I meant which meeting? Like, I know they have you come to the Board of Selectmen meeting where they go through it, and it's now become Kate's budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, typically Kate can make some budget cuts while she's planning before she goes there. She can make some cuts too. It's her budget at this point.
Yeah,
I really like how Kate has handled this over the years too, because it's the Recreation Commission's budget. We then present it to her and it becomes hers. And she, at that point, she makes the cuts she feels is necessary. And, if we feel that we need to go back to the Board of Finance or the Board of Selectmen for whatever reason and fight for whatever item that got cut, we certainly could make some effort to do that. But, I trust her judgment too.
Cheryl.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Pam, do you have, did they indicate to you what day the date you're going to be presenting your budget to the Board of Selectmen? And the budget, or the board?
I have not. She indicated 2 weeks, so I haven't gotten a date yet.
Okay.
So that'd be great. You'll share it.
I'll announce it on Wednesday at our commission meeting if I find out before then.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, does anybody else have any other questions for Pam? And we can let her go. Budget. Well, then in that case, I'll say thank you. And as usual, this has been most informative. We always find out a whole lot more than just the budget. And I think you educate us very well. Thank you and it was actually a very good discussion, guys, for on all sorts of levels of things that we would like.
Great questions, great feedback. Thanks very much. I hope to visit again soon.
Okie doke.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, that sounded like a wind up to me. I missed it.
It probably won't be too much longer. But if somebody is asking a question there.
I have a question more just process question. How can we meet with Pam after she's already submitted the budget? Because it sort of seems like there's not a tremendous point in making comments if her budget's already been submitted. So process-wise, how come we don't meet with her sooner?
Well, we did.
We did on December.
We put our, yeah, that was why we met in December.
I thought that was that the commission meeting or no? That was, I guess we did.
We did it right before the commission meeting so that we would know what, because that was when they were voting on the budget. It is awkward because people get elected in November and it's a dead period in there. And unfortunately, that's when all the budgets are being put together. But part of the reason why Pam comes in January as opposed to earlier is that it's nothing is, well, it's not a set budget until then, so she can have something to talk about, with confidence. It's at that point it's the commission's budget. But you're right, you would like to have your input before they start doing that. But I think you probably have to start lobbying much earlier in the fall, maybe when she first brings the thinking the possible capital budget items to the commission. At that point, they begin their discussion, which is really their budget discussion. So perhaps then, would be, but until you have something to talk about, you can't, she's not going to discuss it with us, what she's going to do. I always felt like she needed to have it set by the commission first because it's their budget. It's not hers, it's their budget. I don't know if I think that was going in circles, sorry.
No, and I appreciate it's their budget, not our budget, but yes.
I know, I understand your frustration, I get it. You don't know the right time is best to do your, insert your thoughts to the commission, so.
But to Adele's credit, when we talked about, when she asked, should we do the December meeting, that one of the reasons was so we could be giving input prior to the commission meeting. And that's why, Kara, I know you did that letter kind of adding, please consider adding in money for Pear Tree Point for some of these things. So, at least it was out there already. It sounds like they didn't necessarily consider it.
Actually, Patty, I thought when they discussed, that they actually had listened to some of the things that we said, Cara. I was pleased that in their discussion that they did talk about it. So I think we did have an impact.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean it that we didn't. I meant they didn't put it financially in the capital account.
Yeah, exactly.
Andy, does anyone know when they start drawing these together and doing their initial planning? And maybe we could talk with Pam at that point. Is it August? Is it October?
Yeah, I think it's probably more like October. I can't, if you look back in the commission, in the information from the commission meetings, it'll say in there when she's bringing forward her capital, her ideas for the capital budget. Problem being, sometimes that gets bumped. And I think this year it got bumped because of everything else that they were talking, probably because of dogs, but I can't remember exactly. But they didn't talk about it as early as maybe they would have normally, but yeah, it's more like, I would say it's more like October. But if we go back and look at Pam's reports in the commission's papers for their meetings, it's in there, or it should be on the agenda. In fact, so if you go back, you go on the town website and look on the agendas for the commission meetings last fall, you can see where it is.
Well, the other issue is that we all are elected officials and we're voted on in November. And then we don't take our oath until 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after the election. And then by the time we get all into committee, their budget is moving forward. So it's difficult for us to have input. Either we do it with the old committee in September and October, or we wait until December when the budget is done with a new committee. So we're stuck in the middle of this.
Yeah, it's true. It's awkward. There's no doubt about it.
Very awkward.
So I'll be interesting to see how, if Kate keeps in the budget that which is in there right now. So we'll see what it see. And for the new members, Sean, I mean, we follow the budget. I mean, we follow the budget through, you know, from the commission to the town administrator, to the Board of Finance, excuse me, to the Board of Selectmen, to the Board of Finance, and then it comes to the RTM. And before it comes to the RTM, we as a committee vote on the Park and Rec section of what's left, and make a report to the RTM and a recommendation to the RTM at the budget meeting. So if that's any other thoughts anybody else wants to share? Okay. So I will move on. I think that we probably touched on almost everything that the commission had before them. And that's the next thing on our agenda, is sort of review the current issues before the commission. The one thing that, you know, there was a lot of dog discussion, and we made a report, you know, on some of our thoughts at the last commission meeting. And they did vote. And so I went back and listened, because I wasn't really, I have to admit, at the end of the day, I wasn't quite sure exactly what they voted for, but I could sound it from the discussion earlier. I think you guys remember better than I did. But at any rate, what they voted for in the end was to extend the off-leash dog beach program at Weed Beach from dawn to dusk, from November to March 31st. And it also included allowing people to walk their dogs in the parking lot. And also to, they will revisit, you know, they will keep an eye on it to see if there are any issues as time goes by, because they, you know, because it's, as Mike Segura said, it's a privilege. And so they will keep an eye on it just to make sure there aren't any complications, or, you know, for a variety of things. Does anybody else want to add anything to that?
Adele?
Yes. Sheila?
I read the signs, and I was glad to see signs were up right away telling about the extended time each day and the longer period. But there is nothing on the signs that would let someone know it's okay to walk their dog on a leash around the parking lot. The signs all point to the beach part where they should be. And the implication is don't dare go a step further. So those signs are not accurate for what's allowed.
Okay. I'll make a note of that if I can find a pen that works.
And Adele, if I can just say, there was I guess you would call it a subcommittee meeting. At the end of that meeting where they voted, they had asked for people to participate in marketing ideas to get the message out. That included informing people about the rules, making it in a more friendly way to get the message out, and then kind of coming up with maybe even some creative themes and ideas for both Weed Beach and other places where dogs are allowed on or off beach. And so
they talked about that, Patty. Did they do it?
Yes. So I was a part of that. That's why I just wanted to tell you quickly. It was Pam Geary, Jamie Gore, who's so creative and it was a great wordsmith. And then someone from the commission, Kathy, from the Parks and Rec Commission, and then a woman named Kelly Scanlon from the public. And then they had asked me to join. And so I'm happy to send you all notes from the meeting, and then kind of a write-up of some calendar of creative ideas. So we'll see if they go ahead and implement it. But it was a good positive meeting. Agree with you, Sheila. I was glad to see that they put up a new poster that's big enough that you don't have to get out of the car and read it, you know, with your glasses. So that was great. They also they took down they had like 20 posters at one point, where I know that was becoming a bit of beach clutter. So it seems like they've done a great job of getting the information out there from dawn to dusk. And then I'm sure Adele will follow up with Pam and just let her know that if there's a way to just get the message out about being allowed to walk the dog on leash on the asphalt area. That's a great suggestion. But I think they're going to do something for Valentine's Day, you know, take a picture with, you know, your sweetheart. So you bring down your dog on Valentine's Day and there'll be treats, and people are going to start they're creating an Instagram account tied to it. So kind of just making it a positive, friendly way. And as we heard from folks that sat on that meeting, you know, there were so many families, particularly people with young kids, that spoke quite passionately about the importance of being outside and, you know, having the ability to go there after school with their dog, you know, play after they've been in school for 8 hours a day. So I think we've come up with some really cute, creative ideas. So
Great. Well, thank you, Patty.
Just,
Thank you.
Adele, just
Patty, are
maybe.
are you representing this committee on that committee?
anyone could participate in it. They had reached out to several people and they had asked for volunteers. And so I had offered. So it's not representing. I could do it if I wasn't on this committee, such as someone else from the public. So, but anybody, you know, we'd love your input. Diane, anybody else?
Adele, when you hand in these suggestions, would you put down what I said before about people are walking on those paths with the dogs? So maybe, I don't know if there's anything there, a sign, but I have been in the parking lot with mine and I do see people going up that way. So maybe that needs to be clarified. Thank you,
just
Adele.
to be on the asphalt. That's a great suggestion, Diane. Thank you.
Yeah, on the asphalt only. Okay, thank you. Good. Everybody all right? All right. The other thing that was before the committee was the field maintenance practices and the commission. And they didn't do anything on it at their December meeting. So I assume they will revisit the field maintenance practices in January. I think the reason was that Jim, who's in charge of maintenance, was out. It was a snowstorm, and so he was otherwise engaged. So they will continue that discussion, I believe, and probably make a decision on that. It sounded like it was going in the direction of a pilot program, but that's not decided. The only other issue that I have that was before the commission was the concession equipment that Pam talked about. And they haven't, that no decision on that was made either. I think the commission, this is the Weed Beach equipment for whether the town purchasing it or the donation, or, you know, whether you're new, old, she had a quote from the current vendor of what the different things there were worth in his idea, but she needed to find out about depreciation, age, and so I think the commission said basically let's know a little bit more about this before we make a decision. They kind of, I know Mike Segro really was interested in knowing what we wanted to cook where, so to give an idea before we decide on what kind of equipment we were going to have. So they're still talking about it. But bottom line, if it's going to happen for this year, they're running out of time. So I think they need to make a decision in January or call a special meeting, because they're going to need to go out to bid with the concessionaires for, you know, by the end of February, early March. So. And Sean, I apologize. I don't have a list for you of that. What I can tell you is, if you go to the agendas and the minutes, I think from the commission meeting in December, and, you know, actually, or even watch some of the videos of the meetings, it'll be helpful. But it was, I think the list was in Pam's director's report, either in November or December.
Thank you. Yeah, super helpful. I'll look back at that.
Thanks. And it was in the budget last year, and all but $5,000 was taken out of the budget, and that was for a consultant to come in who did, and then this is where they're going from that. But they still haven't finished the process. Anybody else?
Did we have a concession stand last year? Was there anyone in there? I didn't go that much.
No, what it was the concession stands were, Diane, you want to explain? The concession stands were closed, but we did have on weekends a couple of local restaurants.
Rory's came, and the one place on Tokenique Road, I believe.
Something kitchen, yeah.
There was really nothing out of the concessions. And prior to that, there were just some sandwiches that had been pre-made and brought down. And I don't think that went over very well with people on the beach. I think most people were, what I saw this past summer, and I was down there quite a bit, was most people were bringing their own food, and probably much happier than having something down there if you can stop and get something at Michael Joseph's or whatever. But I don't think people were really concerned so much with that being closed last year. They were maybe used to it.
The ice cream truck was very.
I think the Friday night thing, Friday and Saturday night, if you're going to the beach with your family or your husband and you want to sit there and buy food, it's rather, instead of going out to dinner, that's a great thing to do, watch the sunset and have something. But I'm not sure that would go over every single day at the beaches.
Well, I think they have a lot of decisions to make. No, I think the idea is to continue with the same sort of concession that they might had in the past, at least for now. But they like to be competitive with the bidding, for that. So I mean, yeah. So we'll see. But those decisions haven't been made yet.
And they probably will get numerous bids if they have their own equipment there. Yeah, we will get bids. I mean, I've talked to people too who said, I don't have the equipment, but I might be interested in doing that.
Right. It would still be local. I think local businesses was the idea, but at any rate, it's a bidding process. So we'll see. I just hope that it happens, because to do that, then they would then have to go back to the Board of Finance and get funding for it. So, I think that's all I have that was before the commission. Does anyone else have any other issues to talk to?
Actually, it's Andy. I've done a little research over the last few minutes and perhaps answered my own question about the budget calendar. Last year, the commission reviewed the budget in their November 18th meeting.
Yes, they did it this year too.
Sent out that proposal the day before. So we really didn't have a chance to discuss it in committee. However, a month earlier than that, in October, you circulated the director's report on October 21st. And I was just trying to find out when our meeting was in October, but I think it was probably before the 21st. So I'm wondering if, I don't think we had a meeting in September last year, and I don't think we have one scheduled this year.
Yes, we do.
Wondering, do we have one in September?
We have one scheduled for everything except for the summer. Yeah. We do. They're scheduled, but that doesn't mean we all, if there's no business with the RTM, sometimes we cancel them. But you're right. That's a good point to pay attention in the autumn. That even if there's might not be anything from the RTM, it might be the time to be looking at budget.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. I'm now in my 21 calendar, and I see us down for the 20th of September. So a good topic at that time might be to try to understand how the budget is falling together, or commencing. I'll
Correct.
add that to my calendar.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Perhaps that would be
I
a
wouldn't have
time for,
figured this out if you hadn't brought it up.
all right.
Sheila, is that you?
Yes, I was thinking from what I've heard tonight that that would be a good time for us to think about, as representing our community, what do the people want most? And we keep hearing about the bathhouse is disgusting, and it's such a small amount compared to so many other things. So I think that's an example of something we could bring up as our group in October and keep pushing for the issues.
Okay, sounds good to me. I'm going to move on to the chairman's report.
Good point.
I think the only thing I have is that as I said in the note that I sent to you guys today, that the commission has revised their meeting schedule. They changed their February meeting and they changed their September meeting. Their September meeting doesn't affect us, but the February meeting does, because it's it'd be at the same time as our meeting is scheduled for. So we can either, I guess, try to meet. I have not checked with Kate Bush or Cecil to see if they would be when we can meet. But the thought of the possibility might be either we meet earlier in the day, which would mean for a very long day, or Patty had suggested to me that she thought the 24th of February might be a good date. And the more I thought about it, it seems like it's probably a good idea to me too, but I'd like your feedback. And then of course I'll have to find out if we can actually do it. Anybody have a comment?
I agree with you on it being a long meeting. If we had one before the commission meeting, their last meeting was pretty long.
It was. And I went back and re-listened to it, and I didn't even listen to the dogs, and it still was pretty long. So
right.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure you want to put our meeting in front of theirs.
My thought would be that if we did it on the 24th, that's really only 8 days before we were scheduled for our our next meeting. So my thought would be, which is scheduled for, I don't know, the beginning of March is what it is. That if we did not need to, if there was nothing from the Rules Committee assigned to us in March, that perhaps we would cancel the March meeting unless we absolutely had to do it, since it's only 8 days after the 24th of February. It's up to you what you want to do.
And just to be
That's
clear,
my thinking.
yeah, to be clear for the new folks on the committee, the Parks and Rec Commission always meets the third Wednesday, or usually meets the third Wednesday of every month.
Yes.
But because that is the school break, that's why they had shifted it up. And we had already scheduled our calendar for the year, and that's why we're looking to move it. And
to explain, Patty, further, we try to schedule our meeting after the Rules Committee meets and before the RTM meets. And sometimes because of the school holidays, it messes with it, and it's not so easy. So we have a short window to do it in. So that's why we were meeting on the 10th, because the Rules Committee meeting's on the 8th. And they set the agenda for the RTM. So, and they assign committees to different topics. And so if you, for instance, we needed to report, then that would be, you need to have a meeting to be able to report back on something to the RTM. So, so that's the idea. So this would move it out of before the RTM meeting. It would be after the RTM meeting on the 24th. And then with the caveat that perhaps our March 8th meeting would be canceled unless rules assign something to us, and then it wouldn't be. So do I have your interest that I move forward with changing it to the 24th?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have a problem? Okay, well, I will look in to see if that's possible. Okay, and if it's not, then I'll be back to you. We'll have to find another date, okay? I hate to move a meeting date, but it looks like that's what we have to do. Okay. That's it for my chairman's report. Is there any other business that anyone has?
No.
Okay, in that case, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Sandy gave a motion and Cheryl seconded. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks, everybody. That was a really good meeting. It was a really good discussion on the budget. Thanks a lot. All righty.
Thank you.
See you
Kara,
next
for
time.
your notes, Sarah Baldwin was on, Lindsay Kelly was on, and Shannon Silsby was on. They were all on.
Was that Shannon on?
Shannon was caller zero.
Hi,
Oh,
guys.
no.
I called in. We've been having
good.
Wi-Fi issues all day, so I just called.
Yeah, so there you are. Okay, good,
Yep,
good.
I must be caller 1 there.
Yes, you are. I do believe. Okay. I'm sorry, you didn't get to ask a question.
No, it's
Sarah,
okay.
Lindsay,
No, it's all
and
right.
Shannon. Yeah.
You're good. Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. See you next time,
Great
guys.
meeting. Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks,
Welcome,
All right.
Val.
So-
Bye-bye.